What's up, everyone? Before I get into today's episode, I just wanted to let you all know that I'll be headed to RenCon in Washington State on September 15th and 16th. I'll have my own table there as well as moderating a panel or two, so if you want to come hang out and talk comics with me, as well as see other amazing artists like Larry Hama, most known for his work on G.I. Joe and Wolverine, or even Kenneth Calhoun, who did special effects makeup for Avengers Infinity War, Suicide Squad, Shape of Water, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. So be sure to stop by. I'd love to hang out with all of you. I'll put all the details in the description below. With that covered, that brings us to the reason you clicked on this episode, and that would be DC Comics' version of Spider-Man named Sideways. Now, I know I'm a little late to talk about him, but hey, as the saying goes, better late than never. But you may be thinking, how is this DC Spider-Man? Well, one, it's kind of obvious once you read the first few issues, and two, the solicit for the first issue literally says, high school junior Derek James accidentally fell through a rift into the dark matter dimension. Now as Sideways, he can create rifts in midair to leap through dimensions at will. But with that much power comes great liability. That last line, but with that much power comes great liability, sounds a little familiar.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Ah, there it is. So let's jump in and see what Sideways is all about by recapping his first issue and talking about his origin. The first issue starts off with Sideways rifting into a girl's bathroom while she's brushing her teeth. She freaks out and is like, "Don't do that, you moron. What makes you think it's okay to rift anywhere you want, Derek?" He says sorry, and we learn she's his friend named Ernie. We also find out she's an anime-loving gamer cosplayer who was the one who made Derek's costume after he got his powers. We also find out what some of his powers might be, as we see him teleport or rift, which is what he calls it later in the book. But when Ernie asks him if he's as strong as Superman, Derek says, "Not as strong, but I do alright," while lifting up a dresser over his head. When Ernie's twin sister comes in, he steps out sideways, as he calls it, and we later see him back at home where we're introduced to his mother and father. Even though he used to drive himself to school, his mother drops him off now because she's terrified to let him do anything by himself after the events that happened in Gotham during the Dark Knight's Metal event. Once at school, we see that his classmates are always talking behind his back, saying stuff like, "Yeah, that's him. He was in Gotham when it happened. Now his mommy has to drop him off." So once in class, Derek just has to tune them out, because they have no idea what happened to him and his mom back in Gotham. And it's here we find out exactly what happened to him and how he got his powers. Well, during the DC Metal event, Derek was with his mom on their way to an interview that his mother got him with the Dark Star Sciences publicity for an internship. But out of nowhere, the sky turned black and a massive mountain appeared right in the middle of Gotham City, which again all happened in Dark Knight's Metal. This issue is just giving us his side of the story. Anyway, Derek goes on to say that it was hard to explain, but there was an energy coming off the mountain and him and his mother were at ground zero. And that was the last time he saw her or anyone else for the next 4 days, because he fell into the ground and then fell somewhere else. He said he thinks he went into whatever energy the mountain was putting off. He goes on to say, "From what I've heard, the mountain cut the city in half, but he didn't fall into the mountain. He fell through it and ended up on the other side of town. And then lights out." His mom got out fine and with the help of a security guard found Derek a day later at a hospital as a John Doe. Needless to say though, after the incident in Gotham, he now had superpowers. The main one being the ability to open rifts to anywhere he wants. And he tries to use this power to become a famous YouTuber by live streaming himself using his powers in his costume that his friend Ernie made him to protect his secret identity. So he very much has a kid mentality and a homemade outfit at first, which is very similar to a certain wall crawler. Anyway, while rifting and using his powers during a YouTube live stream, some voice interrupts and tells him to stop several times. He doesn't listen and is eventually greeted by Tempest, who's an extraterrestrial being and keeper of time and space that wants to kill him because he sees Sideways as a threat to time and space as he's disrupting it by constantly opening rifts left and right. And that, my friends, is where the first issue ends. Now clearly this isn't a direct rip from Spider-Man, but there is a lot of similarities, which DC even knows as they nodded to it in their solicitation of this issue. DC has even said the reason he was created was to give the DC Universe a young teenage loner character, someone who was trying to discover themselves all while dealing with the challenges of being a teenager, which is literally almost verbatim why Stan Lee said he created Spider-Man. I also forgot to mention that Derek's mother and father, Helen and David Flynn, are his adopted parents. And as we all know, Peter Parker lived with his Uncle Ben and Aunt May, who adopted him after his parents died. So while Sideways' power set doesn't have anything to do with wall crawling or shooting webs, he's still pretty similar to Peter Parker / Spider-Man in other areas. As for the Sideways comic itself, I enjoyed it. It's nothing amazing by any means or something I would tell someone, "Oh my god, You have to read this. Although I haven't read anything past the second issue, and I usually give a comic around 3 issues to solidify my opinion. But again, if you're looking for a character that has the Peter Parker Spider-Man vibe, but for some reason don't want to read Spider-Man, then your prayers have been answered with Sideways. Either way, let me know in the comment section what you think of this character and all the other New Age of Heroes characters. Like Damage, who's kinda like the Hulk, the Terrifics, who are pretty much the Fantastic Four, and so on and so forth. With that said, that's gonna bring another episode of Variant to a close, but be sure to check out our website, variantcomics.com, to keep up with the show and everything in the comic world. But I'll see you guys next time when I talk about all things comics.